Hello everybody, welcome to WGBS TV Live, brought to you by SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. In this, our October 30th, 2018 show, we're going to be covering a range of topics, including the latest Supergirl episode, upcoming Supergirl episodes, we're going to be talking comic books, and so much more. We'll also be turning to you to take your questions and comments on any particular Superman topic you would like to discuss. And to let you know how all that works, let me introduce you to my co-host, Mr. Michael Bailey. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Steve. Now, since WGBS Live is all about Superman, we want to hear from the Superman fans that are watching the show with us live on Facebook. So around the halfway mark of the show, and if we don't have too much on the docket, we'll start taking your calls. To do this, you'll need Skype. Get on Skype, find Superman Homepage, and message us that you'd like to join us. Wait for us to reply, and we'll try to get you on the show.
Yes, and for those of you tuning in live via Facebook to watch tonight's show, next to or below that video, we invite you to post your comments and ask questions. Michael and I will keep an eye on those comments and questions and react to them as the show continues. And a huge thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham and Henry Bernstein. Appreciate your support. Well, Mike, it's been a busy week for you, I believe. What's been happening in the world of the Baileys?
Oh, just work, and I think some more work on top of that. It's just been I had a 7-day stretch, and then 1 day off, which let me tell you, the 1 day doesn't really help after working 7 days straight. But I did manage to read the latest issue of Action Comics, and post about it on Twitter, and then have somebody express their disagreement with my comments, which was fun, and we had the issue-sode of Supergirl, which I have a lot to say about. So we got a lot to talk about this week.
Yeah, and tomorrow for you guys is Halloween. Any plans?
Yeah, I'm working. It's a non-stop life of excitement here at the Fortress of Baileytude. No, I have to work, and we really didn't do much this year. Really, it's kind of funny because we usually like to kind of like watch the specials and the movies that come on. It seemed really light on that this year, and for whatever reason, they started showing Christmas movies like a week ago. So I guess Halloween really doesn't matter anymore or something like that.
Christmas seems to be starting earlier every year. Just like in September, I saw some stuff in the shops here for Christmas. It's like, what?
And I, for one, welcome our Christmas overlords and wish them well. And
this is the best Superman shirt I could come up with for Halloween from my collection. So yes, thought I'd be appropriately dressed for tonight's episode.
Yeah, this shirt is Superman looking kind of depressed, which is pretty appropriate for the country right now. So, yay!
Alright, well, let's get into tonight's topics, and we'll start with movie news as we like to do. And the announcement came this week, finally, about the release date for the Reign of the Superman animated movie. We found out that the film will be released digitally on January 15th, 2019, and then it will be on Blu-ray Combo Pack and Ultra HD Blu-ray Combo Pack on January 29th, 2019. So a couple of months to go, but finally we know exactly what. We kept saying early 2019. Now we know it will be mid to late January.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird because they did that like 3 days after the trailer dropped.
Yeah.
Why not? I mean, were they like, okay, we got the trailer ready, not quite firmed up on this date, so just throw it out there? It was really, I thought that was kind of strange. I mean, I'm happy that it's sooner rather than later, but still, it just seems kind of weird.
Yeah, I think they gave IGN.com the exclusive for the trailer drop 3 days before the actual official announcement and trailer were released, so that kind of threw everybody off a little bit, and the fact that there was no date at the end of the trailer kind of didn't help. Everyone was like, okay, that's the trailer, that's fantastic, we love it, and we did the whole looking through it last week, but there was no, at the end it always usually says coming January 29th, or whatever it might be, but there was nothing along those lines with this trailer, but we have to wait for the official press release to, find out that it will be January 29th, the Blu-ray release.
Yeah, I had a thought and it just completely disappeared from my head. No, I just, I guess my reaction is, what's so special about IGN? Why do they get the exclusive? Did they have some kind of deal worked out? I guess they obviously do have some kind of deal worked out with DC Comics that is none of my business, but still, I kind of feel like we should have it exclusive first, but that's just, again, that's just me being kind of picky.
Yeah, I guess they have a pretty wide subscription base and following base, so I don't know what the deal is there, but it's out now for everybody, and as I said, January 29th is the release date for the Blu-ray, and January 15th for digital, and they'll have a sneak peek on the release of the next DC Universe movie, which is Justice League versus the Fatal Five.
I thought it was going to be Batman Hush, but I guess a Justice League movie is better than just jumping right into another Batman film. So
now, what do we know about the Fatal Five? Fatal Five, not Fatal.
Fatal Five that's a Legion of Superheroes outfit. If I'm remembering their origin correctly, it was 5 villains that the Legion recruited to help defeat the Sun Eater, and after they did that, they're like, heck, we're just going to hang out. And it's like the Emerald Empress and that dude with the axe that was on Smallville, a couple other people. I'm kind of blanking on it. My Legion knowledge is not as extensive as I would like it to be sometimes. But yeah, they're a Legion thing, so I'm wondering if that's going to play a part in it.
And there's a featurette here for Lex Luthor, the greatest nemesis, which will be interesting to see just how much of Lex Luthor's history they go into, whether they go into all the different mediums that he's appeared in and the different actors, or how that'll play out. But good to see Lex Luthor getting his dues.
So how do you not do Lex Luthor, the greatest criminal mind of our time?
Yeah,
and then
point.
In parentheses after that, of our time.
Yeah, that's an echo. Of our time. Yeah, good point. I don't know. Maybe there's copyright around that from the movie people. I don't know. It's a good point.
Well, it's my. Maybe they just need to hire me.
Maybe, yes.
Kick me $30 a month. I'll come up for titles for you. How about that, Warner Brothers?
Easy money. There's a couple of Superman the Animated Series and Justice League Unlimited episodes on there as well. So to round out the combo pack. So looking forward to Reign of the Superman coming January 29th on Blu-ray, January 15th on digital. If you're wondering which episodes, Heavy Metal from Superman the Animated Series and Panic in the Sky from JLU.
That makes sense. How does that make sense? It's Reign of the Superman. I mean, Heavy Metal makes sense because it's the Steel episode, but I don't know. That's kind of weird. Maybe it's the Lex Luthor thing.
Maybe
since he was a big part of that. So
there you have it. All right, looking elsewhere, the 40th anniversary of Superman the movie continues to be celebrated with the Museum of Moving Image in Queens, New York, hosting a screening or a couple of screenings of the film. The screenings will take place November 10th, November 11th, and November 12th at 11 a.m. on each day at the Redstone Theatre there in Queens, New York. It's the 143-minute version of the 35mm print, and tickets are just $15 for adults. That's
not bad, especially for being in the greater New York area. It's actually kind of reasonable now that I think about it.
Yeah, $11 for seniors and students, $9 for kids between 3 and 17, and free for kids under 3. So you can get your tickets.
At home.
Yeah. Get your tickets at movingimage.us.
It's nice that right here at the end it's getting Superman the movie is getting a lot of love in various viewings and stuff. We got the Fathom events thing coming up, so as we fast approach the 40th anniversary of the movie, and then we just have to, kick back, wait about 3 years for 2 years for some people, 3 years for others because of how weird Superman 2 was released, but still.
All right, well, that's all the movie news we have, so let's jump into this episode of Supergirl that aired there on Sunday night and here on Monday night in Australia. It was titled Man of Steel, and firstly, let's just get the episode title out of the way. There was a lot of confusion early on about why was it titled Man of Steel if there's no Superman involved. Well, it ended up being that Ben Lockwood and his dad, Peter Lockwood, Peter Lockwood himself, ran and owned a steel factory, and that's where Man of Steel comes into the title.
Yeah, it was a pretty clever way of doing that, especially when comparing it to the Nth Metal factory, which was apparently right next door, which is kind of, I guess that was the industrial section of National City.
I guess so.
That they had all that stuff. But I once it was pretty clear that he owned a steel mill, it was just like, okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Now, I had the task of actually reviewing this for the website. Mark Lax, who's a regular on our program here and who does the reviews for Supergirl for us, is going through some family issues with his father's health, so we wish him all the best and hope everything goes well there. So Mark was unable to do the review this week, and so I stepped in. First time I've done a review for the Supergirl TV show in 4 seasons, and I had mixed feelings on this one. I was like, it was well crafted, especially going back through the last couple of years of the things that have happened on the show, the big milestones of this show, and weaving in the Lockwood family and how it impacted on them. I thought that was really well done and pretty ingenious, actually. I just wasn't sure whether Ben Lockwood was supposed to be a sympathetic figure or a villainous figure, because while I don't agree with what his actions were at the end and how far he went, I kind of felt he was justified in the way he felt.
I had some very complicated feelings about this episode as well. Like you, I thought the way they crafted it was amazing, and I'm kind of curious if I don't know how the filming schedule goes. I'm kind of curious if like this episode and the next episode where Supergirl's going to be in a suit where her face is covered. Was done that way to get Melissa time to film the crossover episodes. Because she was just basically laying on a bed, which you could probably film in a day. Just because everything was focused on Ben. And like I said, in the next episode, she's going to be kind of covered head to toe. Have you ever seen the movie American History X with Edward Norton?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know what that film is, it's about a character that was essentially a white supremacist and how he went from being completely in that camp to being on the other side and the terrible things and that happened to him. It's a rough film. I don't recommend it. But one of the things about the movie that struck me is, because of Edward Norton, who plays the lead character, his kind of natural charisma, I never at any point agreed with anything he said, but I kind of saw how a charismatic figure could speak to people that feel disenfranchised and therefore would be willing to go along with things that maybe are completely and utterly wrong. I was right in my initial feeling that Ben Lockwood was not going to start out hating aliens. I was impressed with their ability, and I think it came a lot down to Sam Witwer's performance. He was amazing throughout this episode. I like him in general, but I just think his delivery, the tone of his voice, the character he was playing, I never at any point agreed with them. In fact, and you know, there's no other way to get into this, so I'm just going to barrel straight ahead into it. There is a lot of overt racism going on in the United States right now when it comes to immigrants. And I don't think the Supergirl television series is being at all subtle about the fact that they're talking about this. The fact that over the weekend we had another mass shooting at a synagogue in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we've gone through where major officials, including ex-presidents, were receiving bombs in the mail that were thankfully intercepted. Just going all into having all of that in the back of my mind going into this episode, I can't separate the two. I just can't. Mm-hmm. It's just completely impossible. So when I was watching Ben Lockwood's father and the things he was saying, they're things that I hear in everyday life about immigrants, about people of other nationalities, about other religions and stuff like that. So it really hit close to home. In fact, I was kind of watching my wife as we were watching it, and she was kind of flinching in certain points because it felt real. Mm. The twist on it is that it's, the racism here is being directed towards literal aliens, literal people from other planets, from other worlds. And the funny thing is that I kind of understood everything Ben Lockwood was going through, but here's the thing. One, Lena Luthor was not completely out of line suggesting that her father update. Yeah. Yes, he couldn't get the money from the banks, but I have a feeling that some of that was he didn't do it fast enough. He didn't jump on the nth metal fast enough. And I'm sorry, people are still going to need steel. I don't know if nth metal is that much better, but still. So his business failing was the part where I was just like, okay, you're just not keeping up with the times. I'm sorry that your business failed, but this happens. Mm. The only area where I kind of felt any kind of sympathy for him was, I'm sorry, if the Martian Manhunter burst into my house and it burned down after that, I'd probably be a little upset too. I think they did an amazing job showing how horrific the events of the Daxamite invasion or the Kryptonians taking over at the end of season 1, where all of that would just scare you as a normal person. Here's where I completely kind of went off the interstate of following where Ben Lockwood was going. He talks about, and it's one of the things that got him fired, because he was mean to Wynn's girlfriend or something. He talks about how progress always has victims. Like we come to the New World here in the United States, and that's really bad for Native Americans. Mm. I think to use a buzzword or a buzz term from contemporary society, there was a lot of white privilege going on there, because basically what he was saying is the only reason I recognize now that we were terrible to people is now it's now happening to me and my people. Right. And I thought, okay, you have lost me completely. Having said all of that, the origin of this version of Agent Liberty, which I still think is a terrible idea of using that name, was very well written. It was probably, I know they've only had 3 episodes, but it's the strongest episode so far, and I think it really sets him up as the most nuanced and well-defined villain that this series has seen in its 4 seasons. Mm.
Yeah, no, very well said. There was a lot there that, as you say, I totally disagreed with, and it was obviously very topical, and like I said, they're not pulling any punches as far as bringing shining a light on this particular topic and of racism and prejudice and all that kind of stuff, and xenophobia and all those kinds of sentiments, and there's been a lot of. And my upcoming column in the Big Blue Report, our twice monthly newsletter, we'll be talking about this very topic as far as about being political and whether or not Superman or Supergirl or these comic book characters should get into the topics of things like racism and politics and other things that we're seeing Supergirl push very heavily. And a lot of people are being turned off the Supergirl TV series because they believe that the show is pushing certain agendas or certain political views, and they don't like that about it. And for me, Superman has always done that. Superman has always been very much focusing on these topics. You know, his very, 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 very first issue in Action Comics #1, it's all about, you know, Superman comes to the rescue of a woman being beaten by her husband. So you've got that whole, thing about family abuse or, hitting women or whatever it might be. And then you've got, even in the early 40s on the radio series, there was Superman going up against corrupt political bosses and corrupt businessmen, and and he's always been the what do you call it, of the oppressed,
the champion of the weak and the oppressed.
Yeah, exactly. So he's always been about standing up for the little guy and making sure that standing up against prejudice and racism. In the 1940s radio series, at the moment I'm listening to like 1948 year, and every episode is about not looking at someone in a different light just because of their background, their religion, their race, their color of their skin, or what have you. And it's like, this is 50 years later and we're still having to deal with these issues. It's just, Superman has always been about those kind of topics.
Yeah, I've said this a bunch of different times over the last 6 months when my give a darn, to say it nicely for family viewing, just finally broke. And I was just like, okay, if we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about this. Saying that you want Superman to stay out of political issues, or Supergirl, but we'll stick with Superman for just a minute. Mm-hmm. Saying you want him to stay out of that is ignoring the history of the character. You're absolutely right. He was the champion of the weak and the oppressed. In his first issue, not only did he stand up against an abusive husband, in his first adventure, he went to intervene in a war because he felt it was wrong. He was taking rich people into a mine with bad safety issues just to show them things. He was breaking up cars. He was Superman was all about being what would today be called an SJW. But let's shoot further. Could you imagine like the outcry on Twitter if the Clan of the Fiery Cross happened today? But it was making headlines back then, but it's a pretty charged storyline. But let's go a little further. Truth, justice, and the American way. If you say your character is for truth, justice, and the American way, you are implicitly making a political statement because you are defining Superman by what your definition of the American way is at that point. Mm-hmm. So don't tell me that he's not a political figure and he should stay out of it. What people are saying, and I'm not trying to insult anybody, everybody's got a different way of viewing their entertainment. Some people don't want to think about these things while they're watching something that they're doing ostensibly for fun. But what they're basically saying is, I don't want Superman to stand for something I don't agree with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a very different statement than, I don't think Superman should be political, because it's just, he's political by nature.
Yep.
It's just who the character is. So the fact that Supergirl has decided to take this stance, I get it. Some people don't like that. Some people think it's heavy-handed. I think it's heavy-handed. But here's the thing. It's a TV show that you don't have to watch.
Exactly.
It's not like anybody is forcing you to tune in week after week. And if you don't like it and ratings go down, the show is either going to change direction or it's going to get canceled. So your problem is solved either way. So, I get it, but it's just like, this is what it is. This is what the show has always been. Mm-hmm. So either stay on the ride and accept it, or you can get off at any point, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are Superman or Supergirl stories for every age group and every kind of level of acceptance as far as, if you just want action romps, then you're probably better off watching the cartoons and things like that, the animated shows, where they don't get too involved in some of the more heated issues. But for a live action movie or show, they're going to get into some of the topics that are more of adult fare, and therefore are going to touch on topics that are going to be hotbed issues. And this is one of them, and Supergirl's never shied away from that from the very beginning. The first season was very much about feminist issues, and now it continues to be so. They're touching all different topics and pressing hot button topics that some people just don't want to see in their comic book TV shows, and that's fair enough. You can decide to not watch it, but more power to them for touching on these topics and making people talk about them.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you can't get away from it. There's two shows that are on Sunday at 8 o'clock that we DVR and watch the next day usually. It's Supergirl and Doctor Who. And Doctor Who, the 13th Doctor, is played by Jodie Whittaker, first female Doctor. So it's really interesting that there's a lot of political and sociological commentary going on there. So it's kind of funny that I'm watching, Supergirl, which is head-on dealing with things, and then you have Doctor Who, which is slyly dealing with things. There was a character last week that was obviously Donald Trump. You really couldn't get away from it. So it's kind of interesting that the two shows that I watch on Sunday have this in common. But I think that from the standpoint of people that just find everything going on right now overwhelming, and some people don't consider it overwhelming. Maybe some people are completely fine. I have been. There's a section of the Tom DeHaven novel, It's Superman, that deals with Clark. It's set in 1935 at that point. Clark and his friend Willie traveling the country. And there's a point where Clark's perception of the world completely changes. And if I'm remembering the line correctly, or the bit of narration, is that he walks with his fists clenched most of the time. That's been me over the past 2 months. So I kind of find Supergirl a bit of a release, because yes, it's reminding me that these things are happening, but it's a representation of people taking power into their own hands. Now, in the case of Ben Lockwood, it's not the way you want to do it, because he's killing people. And they it's funny, they dealt with that head on, but I think they're also kind of swerving away from it, because, they cut to commercial when he was beating that one guy to death. But then it's like you see innocent-looking Sam Witwer. You can't think of him leaving his blood at a murder scene. So it was kind of interesting on that. But no, it's just, this is what it is. And the season is going to live or die on that.
Yeah.
Are people going to accept this? And if you're the type of person that believes that things should fail or succeed based on if people are going to buy the product, or in this case, pay attention to the advertising, or, stick with the show, then, this is a great experiment in that. Is this going to work, or if next season is it going to be more of an action show?
We'll have to wait and see. And we look forward to next episode, which was titled Ahimsa, and we've got now the promo video for that particular episode right now.
Supergirl is alive.
I'm a hero, Alex. I take risks. We'll make her dead.
Heroes go out there. That's what makes them heroes.
Supergirl, all new this Sunday at 8/7 Central on the CW.
So there you have it. That was the promo trailer for Ahimsa, which is the 4th episode of season 4 of Supergirl, and that'll air on Sunday, November 4th.
That suit's looking good. That little containment suit thing that they got going on. I'm actually kind of digging that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure. You mentioned that it could have been because Melissa was filming the crossover. I had a feeling, or had heard possibly, that these episode 4 and 5 were shot early in the season to allow her the time that she needed to finish off doing the Broadway musical Beautiful that she was a part of.
That's entirely possible too. I mean, there's different. That's probably more the realistic reason, since we've been seeing so many behind the scenes photos
of those episodes,
and Stephen of the crossover episodes, and Stephen Amell has been nonstop sharing things. In fact, it's not one that he shared, but I saw one today, like 5 seconds before I got on Skype, of Tyler Hoechlin in his black costume in front of a guy dressed in the red and blue costume.
I saw that too.
And I was just like, oh, that's going to be cool. Not only are we're getting two different Supermen, but we're getting them interacting with each other. That's kind of bold. And the official image of the Monitor came out today, and that looks really good. It's just I was wondering how they were going to top last year. Question answered.
Yeah, two Supermen in the one episode. I think that's an interesting way to pique our interest. So we look forward to that one coming in December. But before then, we also have the description for the 5th episode. So that was the 4th episode that we just watched the trailer for. The 5th episode is titled Parasite Lost. They changed the title. It was something else before, but Parasite Lost is described as Colonel Haley, played by April Parker-Jones, makes a surprising decision regarding Supergirl. Kara writes a series of articles highlighting aliens in National City in the hopes that humans will stop being so fearful of them. Unfortunately, the article puts some of the aliens in harm's way.
Yeah, I can see where that would happen.
Yeah, so that is the description for the 4th episode, or is it the 5th episode? No, it's the 5th episode of Season 4 of Supergirl. Parasite Lost.
Justin in the chat says that the Supergirl costume from next week with the full face covering and all that looks like the Superman swimsuit for the Wonder Woman, swimsuit from the 70s. He's not wrong. That the Linda Carter swimming outfit that she would wear occasionally, it does kind of look like that.
There you go. So that's the upcoming episode. Alright, we're going to take a quick break, play some messages, and on the flip side we're going to do our monthly segments, the Super Secret Soundbite and Big Question segments, coming up right after these messages. More shortly.
We'll be back in a moment with the exciting climax of today's episode. So stand by.
Look, up in the sky.
It's a bird.
It's a plane. No, it's SupermanHomepage.com, the #1 Superman fan site in the world. SupermanHomepage.com, covering the world of Superman from the 1930s to today. News, reviews, rumors, and reports. SupermanHomepage.com for all your Superman comics, TV shows, movies, cartoons, radio shows, and more. Everything you ever wanted to know about the Man of Steel and more. SupermanHomepage.com.
Thanks, Superman Homepage, for all the support over the years. I really appreciate it.
I'm Matt Bomer, the voice of Superman and Superman Unbound, and this is the Superman Homepage.
Right here on Superman Homepage.
Oh, that outfit's adorable! I think it's time to have some fun at Burger King. Yeah, that sounds great.
What are you watching?
Superman fighting Brainiac.
Did you turn it down?
Cool new Superman toys are now at Burger King. You can get one with every Kids Club meal.
Well, what have we here?
Wow. Burger King Kids Club. Great food, cool stuff, kids only.
Now we're back on WGBS TV Live. Love seeing those old ads of those toys from Burger King.
Yeah, it's just I had Burger King a couple months ago and it was really bad. They're not as good as they used to be. Let me put it to you that way.
I don't think they sit in the stomach of an adult as well as they do of a kid.
Or as an older adult would be a better way to put it.
All right. Before we move on to the big question segment of the show, also this week we saw this picture from Melissa Benoist of her and Ruby Rose, who is playing Batwoman in the upcoming crossover that we spoke about, titled Elseworlds. And Melissa Benoist just looks like she's having a blast there. It looks like she can't stop laughing.
Yeah, I was very charmed by this because, I will completely admit that once Superman was announced and once those photos started coming out, I was completely distracted from the Batwoman angle of this, and that's completely wrong because I love Batwoman as a character. And just the fact that it's going to be Supergirl and Batwoman together, hopefully at no point will Ruby Rose look at her and ask her if she bleeds. Or if they do, maybe they'll make it a comedic thing, which would be kind of nice. But no, I really have to focus on, kind of lose my Lois Lane and Superman blinders and kind of focus on the fact that, hey, there's other things about this crossover that are cool.
Yeah, indeed. So that is the photo, and we look forward to seeing what they do there in that episode. It's just, I cannot wait for this crossover. It just looks like it's going to be so much fun. All right, so
on the way.
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to the big question segment of our show, and I'll just play the intro right now.
Let's start with the big question.
So the big question segment of our show. Last month we asked the question, when did you first see Superman the movie? And we had a number of responses. First off, we had Ron Crosby, who wrote in saying, I can't remember the exact year, but it was 35 to 40 years ago, and it was on TV. There were only 2 times my mother let me stay up late. One, when her favourite movie was on, The Wizard of Oz, and 2, when Superman, luckily it didn't matter if it was 1 or 2, was on. I kept that tradition going and allow my son to stay up late when comic book movies are on. Cool, nice tradition. I love that.
So his son never sleeps.
Because they're on all the
always
time.
a comic book movie.
That's right.
John Rinaldi wrote, I just could not wait to see Superman in theaters. On the first day of its release on December 15th, 1978, we drove 30 minutes to the closest movie theater in Totowa, New Jersey with my Joseph and my 2 brothers, Alex and Gerard. We waited on a line that was wrapped around the building. Such a memorable and heartwarming memory since my dad and brother Gerard died at such young ages. Every time I think of that film, I remember the amazement and wonder we all felt, and tears still come to my eyes.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. So next up we had Ian Jiggle. He says, I saw the movie first in the theatre. According to Wikipedia, it was released mid-December, so I suspect I saw it sometime over the Christmas holidays in 1978. I would have just turned 6, so while I distinctly remember sitting watching it in the theatre, things like dates are lost to me. Well, thank you anyway, Ian. Appreciate your response to the big question.
Justin Suarez wrote, I remember going watching Superman the movie in George St. Sydney with my mom in the late 70s. You really should have read this one, Steve. He's Australian. I also remember getting a Superman show bag at the cinema. It had poster stickers, and oddly enough, I remember having a chained plastic necklace with a green chunky piece of kryptonite hanging off of it.
Well done. Justin's listening live on the show right now, so we appreciate your response, Justin, and been to a number of events there at George Street Cinemas in the city, so it's a great venue, and wow, that's pretty cool. All right, Billy Hogan, who we miss and haven't heard from in a while, said, unfortunately I never saw any of the Christopher Reeve Superman films at the theatre. The first one I saw at the theatre was Superman Returns. I first saw Superman the movie during its TV premiere. I've forgotten which of the big 3 networks it was first broadcast on. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate your response to the question.
Well, Billy Hogan never saw. Okay, that's weird.
Tragic, isn't it?
I'm just having trouble believing that. I mean, I was too young. Superman 3 was the only one I saw in the theater, but I was 2 when the first one came out.
Right.
So. You are also welcome that I did not read Justin's comment with an Australian accent. You're all welcome for that. So,
thank you.
Arnie H. wrote, 1977, I was 13 and at a local theater when I spotted a Coming Soon poster with the Crystal S shield. I couldn't be more excited. On opening night for Superman the movie, my friend Jeff and I went to a theater in Brooklyn where we waited in line for 2 hours.
Wow.
Sadly, we couldn't get in.
Oh, what?
We went back the next day and finally saw it. Of course, I loved it. It remains my all-time favorite movie. I'm hoping Jeff will join me in November for the Fandango 40th anniversary screening. We'll get there super early. Well, you'll be able to buy tickets ahead of time this time. You know, it's kind of funny, before we get to the last one, this is something that I think modern audiences really can't relate to.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that, you know, a lot of times you buy your tickets and even choose your seats now. But, you know, when I hear stories of people seeing Superman the movie or any of the Star Wars films, the original Star Wars films, there's always like, there was a line around the building, and it's just like, wow, that, I mean, I remember waiting in line, but just when it's the only theater in town, there's only so many seats, it's only on one screen, it's not like they put it on multiple screens.
That's right.
So I think we live in a much better era.
Yeah, thank goodness. And the last response comes from another of our live listeners, and that's John Patrick Van Pelt, who wrote, the first time I saw Superman the movie was when I was 9 years old. I first met Superman the movie through the company Blockbuster. Still 25 years later, I still love Superman to this day. Thank you, John. So, yes, many people's first... I think I would have been 8 when Superman the movie came out. I'm not sure if it was Superman the movie or Superman 2 that my uncle took a bunch of us nieces and nephews to see at the theatre, but I remember it having such an impact on me. But most people of my generation who might have been too young to go see Superman the movie at the theatre would have been exposed to it from the TV premiere, which was, you know, a massive kind of everything, the extended cut, everything thrown back in. And I remember, you know, whenever we would watch it, it would be going so late, like Ron said it, one of our earlier respondents, and, you know, it would be, all right, time for bed, and we'd be all like tired, bleary-eyed, but we'd all be flying up the stairs, you know, just to get to bed, you know, because we were just so pumped by the end of the film.
Yeah, I may have said this on a previous episode. With for me, I have 2 memories that might be the first time. One was my entire family sitting in the lower level of the house we were living in that had the television. We had cable from a very early time, and HBO got Superman the movie like 1980, 1981, somewhere around there. And I remember watching it there with them, but I also remember watching it when we were visiting my dad's parents down where I live now. And Papa John, my grandfather, not the founder of a pizza chain, he had like a huge video library because he would take movies off of HBO. And I remember when I had chicken pox sitting there and watching it. So it was around the same time period, so I don't know which was first. So I just say those are my early experiences watching the film.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, we had a VHS, or actually the beta cord very early, and we taped so much off the TV back then. It was just such a novelty, and I think we've still got Superman the movie. I think most of the time, you know, you're trying to save up because tapes weren't cheap, and you'd get to the end of the tape and you'd quickly find another one and try to shove it in to continue on, so you'd have the movie over 2 cassettes, and it was just like, oh. But they were, you know, like I said, different time, different era, definitely much easier this day and age. All right, let's move on to what is our new big question. So for this month of November, you can get involved with the new big question, and it's a topic that we've been discussing tonight, and that is, do you think that the Supergirl TV series is too political? It's an interesting topic. We've been debating it here tonight. So get involved with the big question segment of our show. Head to the Superman homepage. Under the Contact Us menu, you'll find the big question feedback form, and you'll be able to send in your response to this question of whether you think the Supergirl TV series is too political. Get involved. Let us know why, yes, no, why, and why of either way, and we will read out those responses at the end of November when we get together for the final WGBS TV episode of November.
Yay!
All right, let's move into Super Secret Soundbite.
Only one thing alive with less than 4 legs can hear this frequency, Superman, and that's you.
And this month's Super Secret Soundbite was from the movie Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. I'm going to play it again for you here so you can see if you can remember it.
Fresh air? Fresh air. Fresh air, sure.
So there was Lois talking about fresh air, sure, fresh air. And there was only one person who guessed it right, and that was Jack Canterbury. So well done, Jack, and not a name we've heard of before, but well done, Jack. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being part of the Super Secret Soundbite. You were the only person who guessed that was the sound, where the sound came from for the Super Secret Soundbite from last month. So let's see if more people can guess where in the world of Superman this new sound comes from.
Lois, I want you to go out with me.
There you have it. I think kind of like a bit of a flash there of a bit of the movie. I'm not sure if you saw that, but or not the movie, where it was from. So if you think you know where that Super Secret Soundbite came from, then use the Super Secret Soundbite entry form found at the Superman homepage under the Contact Us menu, and we will read out the names of every person who guesses it right here at our end of November show on WGBS TV Live.
It's obviously from the George Reeves series.
Obviously, because he was asking Lois out all the time.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's push on with our topics for tonight's program. And you mentioned the Action Comics 1004 at the beginning of our show tonight, Michael. What about this particular issue was so good for you?
One of the things about Lois and Clark being married is that it's always kind of an unfair proposition. I'm not saying that he's a bad husband, but being Superman, especially when you look at the Superman books from 10 years ago, when he went and lived on New Krypton for an extended period of time, and we're just supposed to be okay with this, right? Because it's just natural. He's Superman. It's what he does. So the fact that this issue kind of highlighted that maybe Lois needs to do something similar when she's working, where she's I think Bendis is kind of smart in the way he writes things, because sometimes he's talking directly to the reader. At one point she goes, "We are not breaking up," and I think he put that in there on purpose,
emphasis
specifically, because a very reliable and what I think is upstanding comic book site released an article saying that they're taking a break, and I didn't get that from the issue at all. I just got it that they were kind of talking about their relationship and where has Lois been. And I'll never look at Great Caesar's Ghost the same way again. But the point is that I think that Bendis understands this relationship and this marriage. Some people completely disagreed. I'm seeing a lot of chatter on social media about how they don't like the way he's writing Lois, and that this is an insult to married women and working women and all that kind of things. I get that. I understand it. It's not my perspective. It doesn't mean that I think your perspective is wrong. But for me, this was kind of a healthy moment for the two of them, and a nice little interlude in this Leviathan story.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great issue, and I thought Bendis went to a lot of lengths to make sure that it was obvious where things were at with their relationship and what the status was of their relationship. And I loved the interaction between Superman and Lois, and the way that the relationship, when he first sees her and deals with the issue about the Daily Planet reporter kind of bombarding him with questions about the photo of her and Lex and what's going on there. And all in all, it was as our reviewer Mario Benisi on the website says, a nice break, a nice detour from the Red Cloud story that we've been delved into for a couple of issues now.
And I really liked Perry just kind of shutting her down completely. And it's like, no, what I see is a reporter and a former president having a conversation. and just like kind of and him regretting hiring another gossip columnist. I thought that was a good moment for him.
Yeah, that was a nice Perry moment, and very much the father figure taking care of his reporters, if you like, and saying we don't talk to fellow colleagues like that, and it was nicely done. And if anything, I think the variant cover kind of helped solidify what Bendis was going with that embracing image of Superman and Lois there on the variant cover. But I love the standard cover with Superman flying over those ducks. Even though I didn't get the foil cover, I've just got the digital version. It's a great image by Steve Rude.
And here's the thing. One, Bendis, I don't think ever had any interest in breaking up the marriage. No. He seemed to have enough respect for them bringing it back and what Jurgens and Tomasi did with that relationship. And two, there's nothing in it for him to do it, to kick over the apple cart and to kind of upset everybody again.
Yeah.
It's just he tells stories at a certain pace, and it took us months to get to this point, but now we're here and it's happened, and we can kind of move on. Now the next step is John coming back, and what that's going to mean, and I'm going to be really kind of excited when we're about almost a year into. To his working with the character, and I think things will, like all the pieces that were kind of thrown up in the air during Man of Steel will have come back to the ground, and you can kind of deal with it further.
So that was Action Comics 1004, and it was the only issue that really came out last week for Superman fans who are purchasing just the Superman family of books. But there's a number of books coming out this week that might be of interest to everyone, and we look at those now. We look at the comic book covers for this week's comics. We have Heroes in Crisis number 2 was pushed back from last week to this week, and that's there. There's the Batman cover, and it's also available in this Bane breaking Batman's back cover as well, which they had in issue number 1. They had the Death of Superman cover as the variant. So that's Heroes in Crisis number 2. We also have Injustice vs. Masters of the Universe number 4 out this week. JLA, or Justice League Aquaman Drowned Earth number 1 is out this week, and that's the next big saga that's out this week, starting this week, and we've seen the prelude to that earlier the previous week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, and that is also available in a variant cover, which is a tribute to the upcoming Aquaman movie. So that is out this week. We've also got this Hanna-Barbera DC Comics crossover, Superman Top Cat number 1, which is not one I ever saw coming, but it is also available in a variant cover there. And then we've got a couple of trade paper or hardcover. This is The Man of Steel by Brian Michael Bendis, out in hardcover this week, as is Supergirl Volume 4 Plain Sight Rebirth trade paperback. And that is the comic books that are out this week for Superman, Supergirl fans.
Superman and Top Cat. That's
the crossover you really always weird. Wanted to see.
You're right. You got me. I'm gonna completely cop to that too. So
those comics are out October 31st, and I'm not sure what happened with the Death of Superman digital first series. It went to 12 issues, and it was like chapter 1 or part 1, and that's all we've seen. There's no further issues after the 12th digital issue of that. So I haven't seen anything about whether or not there's going to be a part 2 or chapter 2, or whether they got to where they wanted to get to. I'm not sure. It was very weird the way it kind of played out.
Maybe it didn't do well. I don't know. I read the first one, and the others are sitting there waiting for me to read it whenever I want to, piled up digitally, which takes up a lot less room, let me tell you. And at some point I'll read it, but it's. I appreciated that they did it, but I'm kind of still wondering why. It's just like, the movie itself, I think, did a pretty good job of exploring the character. If you were going to do something like that, maybe not in the way they did it
Yeah.
So
yeah, fair enough. All right, and looking elsewhere, Sideshow Collectibles is now taking pre-orders for their limited edition Supergirl and Power Girl art print by artist Alex Garner. Very nice image there, painting there. It's limited to 250 pieces, and it says this high-flying DC fine art collectible features Supergirl of Earth 1 and Power Girl of Earth 2. From across the multiverse, these two Kryptonian counterparts have taken to the skies to make their world a better place while powered by Earth's yellow sun. And the two of them are flying above the sunlit clouds in this image, which is available, as I said, through Sideshow Collectibles, and you can pre-order it now through our website.
2008 called it once it's Supergirl and Power Girl back. It's a very nice image.
It is a nice image, but yeah, you're right. It's a throwback to an earlier timepiece as far as costume designs are concerned. Time period.
In the chat, Justin suggests Gorilla Grodd and Grape Ape teaming up. I'm down for that.
Yeah, I think there is something along those lines happening.
Title the story "Monkeying Around." I mean, it writes itself.
Yeah, going ape.
I was trying not to cough, and you made me laugh. Thank you.
All right, so that is that. We have time for This Week in History, if you're prepared for that, Michael.
I got it all ready.
Okay,
so
I'll play your thing right now.
Come with me now, my son, as we break through the bars of your earthly confinement.
But I hear that. Anyways, we have to jump to 1958 for comics, because 1938 and 1948 came up short. But you have Action Comics number 247 came out on this day, back in 1958, as well as Adventure Comics number 255, which had a Superboy story. Jumping to 1978, you had Superman number 331, which is a Master Jailer story. Look up Master Jailer. It's a really weird storyline. Jumping to 1988, Adventures of Superman number 449, which was part of the Invasion crossover, came out. I vividly remember buying that off the rack. 1998, we have Superman for All Seasons number 4 came out this week, back then. And then in 2008, Superman number 681, which was part of the New Krypton storyline. And again, it does not feel like it's been 10 years since that story went down. But we have to accept that time moves on and all that. You have jumped ahead to November in the calendar, so I don't have anything there.
Well, I think this week it was a very lean week as far as everything was concerned in October.
Yeah.
I think Jeffrey East was the last thing that
Jeff
we
East just
celebrated his birthday.
The birthday.
Yep.
Yeah.
But other than that, there wasn't much happening this week in history as far as the last week of October is concerned in the world of Superman. So, nothing there for birthdays and anniversaries and the like. But look, that's pretty much it for tonight's episode. Before we sign off, I'd like to thank everyone for watching tonight's episode of WGBS TV Live. I'd like to thank all those who are part of the Facebook chat and comments there. Appreciate your support and watching the show. And a big thank you to you, my co-host, Michael Bailey. Thank you, Mike.
Pleasure as always, Steve.
And a big thank you to our sponsors and patrons, Douglas Meacham and Henry Bernstein. We appreciate your support. And if you want to sponsor the Superman homepage, you can do so for as little as $3. Just head to patreon.com/Superman homepage. Now, the complete 1-hour video of tonight's program will be available on the Superman homepage website and our Facebook page, and will remain there if you'd like to watch it back or perhaps missed part of the show. We'll be back next week on Tuesday, November 6th at 7:30 p.m. Actually, when does Daylight Savings changes this week for you?
No, next week.
Okay. So we're back.
No, it is this week. You're right.
Yeah.
It's the 4th.
November 4th, yeah. It's going to stay at 7:30 p.m. for the US and Northern Hemisphere time. So it'll be Pacific Standard Time at 7:30 p.m. for another edition of WGBS TV Live. But for everyone else, Southern Hemisphere, it'll move an hour further forward. So it'll be 2:30 here in Sydney, Australia. So we look forward to talking with you then. Until then, be sure to check out supermanhomepage.com for all your daily news updates on everything surrounding the Man of Steel. I'm Steve Eunice on behalf of myself and Michael Bailey. Thanks for watching WGBS TV Live, brought to you by supermanhomepage.com.